virtualization to streamline your storage, both old and young. Video: how Docker brought containers mainstreamed. Making a mixed estate of different pieces of its infrastructure work together is a constant headache for many businesses, but the trend towards hyper-convergence means it can be possible to bring together old and new storage into one efficient hardware stack. Virtuozzo is one company doing just that through a variety of software tools ranging from virtualized object storage to cloud-optimized Linux distributions to container migration technologies. Virtuozzo also works on numerous open-source projects including OpenVZ, CRIU, KVM, Docker, OpenStack, and the Linux kernel. Virtuozzo CEO, George Caritas, recently told ZDNet how it's done. As I understand it, Virtuozzo is part of a group of company owned and run by Sergey Belousov, the man behind Parallels. Caritas: whether it is a hard drive or an SSD or any other form factor, you can manage it through a common interface and a common software stack. Virtuozzo was actually the first company in that family and was created back in early 2000. Sergey had a view that, at that time, virtualization and hosting wasn't working particularly well, and that shared hosting was not very functional. He went off and built a container, at system level, virtualization strategy, and that became Virtuozzo. We fundamentally created the virtual private server industry for the hosting community that was developing at that time. The business has evolved since then and we focus on the service provider community. But that's not just hosting anymore, but also includes other software components such as SaaS environments, and even some systems integrators or managed services providers. Our model, or software stack, has evolved to include virtualization of the compute, virtualization in software-defined storage along with the networking capabilities to wrap it all together and create a cluster or stack around, basically, any x86 system type infrastructures. We can then manage storage across multiple nodes and provide the networking capabilities to bring it all together. Our model has evolved from pure compute at the container level to layering KVM's kernel-based virtual machines as a virtual machine, so we can actually, on the same physical node, let you run containers as well as virtual machines, then build in the storage capability as a truly software-defined stack that mimics, or from a definitional standpoint, is the same hyper-converged infrastructure structure. Our difference is that we are pure software, and so we can be hardware agnostic. And the systems can run on leftover hardware, or hardware that's been repurposed, so the customer doesn't have to make a vendor choice. And the same is true of the software on the storage side, where it doesn't matter whether it is a hard drive or an SSD or any other form factor. We allow all of that to be managed through a common interface and a common software stack. So you can run on virtually any hardware platform. Correct. We are certified on any x86 platform as well as ARM. We do work there, but it's just not a big market for us. Our OS is based on Linux, and that includes Android and other variants. Does that mean that hyperconvergence is a big part of your business? Yes. It started as computer, but people want to squeeze more out of the storage they already have and stop having to buy things like high-end sounds and pay the premium on that. A hard drive is just a hard drive, and depending on workloads and configurations we can be very competitive. Our evolution is towards the hyper-converged, and if you think of hyper-converged, it's fundamentally a storage solution. If you look at the mechanics, they are not really focused on the computer side at all. They are really a storage play and compute is secondary. What's the difference between yourselves and the competition? One of the biggest differences is that we are truly just a software stack. We don't care about the hardware. I think that gives us a unique value proposition in the market because the other companies tie themselves specifically to an appliance. They may come pre-configured, and so perhaps are easier to use, but then you are tied to that framework and that form factor. Now, if you think of any data center environment, it's not homogeneous. You may have Dell and HP or white label servers, and you may have generations of that. We don't care. Is your point of difference that you can get all this varied stuff working together? Correct. Also, we can bridge a virtual machine. If you look at a lot of deployments, especially in mainstream businesses, it wasn't containers 5 or 6 years ago, it was VM. We can actually allow that to work and have a transition strategy where you can get things like Docker and the DevOps movement, which is really about containers, and then ship in edge-type solutions. We can deliver that on a common platform. Do you think the